Welcome back, Tony Langford. It's so good to see you again.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You know, Tony, you do so well with relationships and couples and communication, and you've just got the world of knowledge, and it's always great sharing conversations with you. And for our listeners out there, today what we're going to do is we're going to explore, what do you bring to a relationship? Now, what I like most out of your little ebook, which is so full of just wonderful wisdom, and I really thank you for that, is, and I'll quote you here, you write, instead of looking for the best partner, why not become the best partner? Tony, that is such an amazing and very valid point, because so many people that come into our clinic saying, I'm looking for, and I'm looking for, and I'm looking for. But what about what do you look like, first of all? What about you? What do you bring to the relationship? How important is that to bring that point across to our clients?
Yeah. And I'm a big believer, it makes me sad when I hear clients or anybody talk about, this is my better half, my other half, that they're not a whole entire person without having some sort of relationship. So that straight away, that tells me that they don't believe that they're entire themselves, that they're not a full and whole person, that they're waiting for that other missing part. And so instead of looking for for the right partner, be the best partner you can be. Everybody has to look at the common denominator or the common factor in all their relationships, whether they're romantic, platonic, familial, like family, is themselves. So if there's a correlation or a similarity or dysfunction in all of those, that they become victim, that they expect other people to make them feel better or soothe them, then they've got to look at that the dysfunction's coming from them, and they have to sort themselves out. You know, I'm a strong believer that I teach the world how to treat me by the way I treat myself. So
Yeah.
Do you think anybody really has a second chance to do the wrong thing by me?
Absolutely not.
And it's not that I'm a ball breaker. I just, I don't treat myself with disrespect. So why would I let other people do that? I'm not saying that I'm in a bit. I am in my own world. However, in, the wider community, I have to blend in. So, if all my past relationships have been poor relationships or dysfunctional relationships, then what am I bringing to the table? What are my expectations as far as being in a relationship? Do I expect my life to be better because I've got, a partner? Do I expect to have all my problems solved? I want a partner in crime, not someone that takes over my life. And I think I've mentioned before, I choose to be with someone that could live without me. His choice is to be with me. So there's choice in everything. If you come from that, what we call codependence, which is, if you're not all right, I'm not all right. If you're not all right, what did I do wrong? And it's putting the blame of all dysfunction on yourself, or if your partner is angry or upset, it's about going, okay, how about I check in if they're angry with me or they've had a bad day, instead of jumping to that automatic conclusion, what have I done wrong?
Yeah. Or also because my partner's having a bad day, so that means I have to have a bad day. No, they're having a bad day, unfortunately, but it's their bad day. It's not your bad day. It's like we've spoken before about inviting one another to parties, jealousy parties or anger parties or resentment parties, whatever's going on for the other. Sometimes when we are in conflict with one another, we've got to say to ourselves, something's going on over there. It's not my stuff though.
The thing is, if you're in conflict with your partner, traditionally the conflict will start with internally in yourself, and you put it on the other person. And I get trends, and I don't know whether you or any other therapist that, a lot of my supervisors say they find trends. Sorry, my phone keeps ringing. I keep sliding it. There seems to be trends we get, for a couple of weeks of the clients saying the same thing, especially new clients. And I find that there's something that's been quite interesting lately about people arguing a lot, and it could be because of COVID and everybody, you know, being cooped up. At the end of the day, if you're cooped up, you can choose to, you know, embrace that cooped upness, or you can push against it and fight against it and blame other people for your inability to feel relaxed and comfortable in your own skin or in your own company. So there's 3 questions that I ask couples, and the first one is, how much do you want to fix this? And it's not about fixing it for the other person, it's about fixing it for self. So what am I putting out there that I have to change so that I'm not putting, you know, crap into that relationship? It's like what I've said before. You can't take moldy meat and absolutely beautiful fresh asparagus and put it together to make a healthy meal. Same with a relationship. You can't have dysfunction and functional and expect it to be functional. So the second question is, what are you prepared to do? And that's normally, let's go to a counsellor and get them to fix us. Which we don't do. That's not our job. Our job is to put all those raw ingredients of skills, and then they make them. They Fred and Georgize them and Susieise them. And
like you said last time on our last episode, you said my role is to be redundant on your opening statement. That's right. And I know you're on the second point here, but just going off that rotten meat, you write in your little book, you can't take rotten meat and moldy vegetables and make a healthy meal. You also can't take fresh vegetables and rotten meat and make a healthy meal. So why would you take dysfunctional communication styles or internal belief systems and expect to make healthy relationships? It just doesn't work or make sense. Such a good point, and it's a great way to visualize it because it's so true. But go on, what was your second?
I like the picture in that part of my ebook because it's just a ham and cheese and tomato sandwich that's all moldy and
Absolutely.
Anyway, the third one, which is, I think the other 2 are sort of, they link in, but this one can be a standalone one, and it's about arguing. And it's, are you willing to stop trying to convert the other person to your way of thinking? And that's where arguments come from, that belief that I'm right, you're wrong, you know, and it doesn't matter whether I'm right and they're wrong. In my world, I'm right. In their world, they're right. So why have an argument about something that is about converting the other person? An example is, I loathe seafood. I even hold my nose going past a seafood shop. Hate it with a passion. Yet I'm always being, not my partner anymore, but I'm always being asked by friends, oh, you should try it. It's really good for you. So give me a Vegemite sandwich. Why bother wasting beautiful seafood on someone that's going to have it deep fried and battered and deep fried and then a sauce to dunk it in, so I can't taste it. So stop trying to convert me to eating mushrooms or whatever. And it's the same in any sort of relationship argument. You need to agree to disagree. It's like, okay, you believe in Trump, you believe in Biden, or you believe in Liberal, you believe in Labor, or you believe that smacking's all right. I don't. Well, then that's where you draw the line, when there's harm. So it's about looking at being able to stop converting the other person to your way of thinking. We're never going to understand what the other person is really going through because we're not them. So it's about acceptance and allowance of someone else's core beliefs. If it's a moral or ethical issue, fair enough. You look at, is this a relationship I need or want to be in? If there's that moral or ethical compass, disparity.
Yeah, that's right. One of the, I don't know where I read this, and I'm sure I've said it before, but once upon a time I read, the best relationships are those in which you are free.
Yes. And that's why you choose to be with someone. I don't want someone who has to be with me. I want someone who could live without me but chooses not to. So that's the context. And so, I'm working with a family, so, kids and everything. And the child, one of the kids seems to be the problem child. And he's got a diagnosis, and it doesn't matter what that diagnosis is. It's a label. And I said to this kid, you've got choice. You can listen to that internal narrative, like all of us, where, you know, the kid's going, he's got a kid, you know, one voice going, oh yeah, you got to do this. And the other one's, bugger that, I don't want to. And the negative one is louder than the soft one. So we all have that thing in our head of, well, you know, I've got to help them, you know, but I really don't want to, but, you know, I will anyway. And then we get angry because we do something we don't particularly want to do, whether it's
internal conflict,
or go to dinner with friends of your partner that you really can't stand, and they don't make any effort with you, which is another big thing. It's about, you know, looking at, do I need to do this to make my partner happy? And if I'm doing that, what's the detriment to myself? And then what's the fallout to my relationship? Do I then, you know, sulk, bottom lip, hang in there, you know, my non-verbals are screaming, I don't want to be here. And I suppose that's where you've got to look at, you know, 93% of our communication is non-verbal. So if I'm sitting here going, oh yeah, Amanda, I'm really enjoying, you know, talking to you and talking to you, does it really look like I am? That blind Freddie could see. So if, you know, there's one thing that I do a lot with clients, and it traditionally it comes from the female perspective, and yes, I am generalizing. Not all women are like this. However, it seems to be this inability to say no, or I don't want that, or I want this. And it's when the partner comes home and he can see, even though men don't read, I think they can read 5 facial expressions, where women are about 11. So men can confuse frustration with sadness, and you could Google all that, how it works. But it's, if a man sees that there's something wrong with his partner, you know, like in the face, and they go, well, you're right, and they go, I'm fine. It's like 93% non-verbals to saying I'm not. I'm fine. Stop asking. And I've got an acronym for that. So, excuse me, I'm going to swear. Fine means fucked up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. So my non-verbals have been telling you, I'm not all right, but my words are saying I'm fine. So we take that off the table and go, I'm not okay, or I've had a bad day. It's not about you. I had a fight with Fred at work. Oh, okay. So the other person's off the hook. They don't have to worry or take responsibility for how the other person feels. There's a really good example. I had a couple, maybe a decade ago, and they had a couple of older kids, like late teens. They owned a very successful business, and they worked together, you know, which is really hard. So I had several sessions with them, and eventually came down to the point that she said, I can't be unhappy or sad. I have to be up all the time. If I'm not up, he tries to jolly me. And I just want to feel what I want to feel. And he felt terrible if she, and this is the codependency type thing, if you're all right, I'm all right. If you're not all right, what did I do wrong? So he was always trying to make her feel better. And it took him probably 4 or 5 months to sit with the discomfort of her being sad or angry and not taking it on himself. And if you think of our comfort zone, so if that's our comfort zone, you've got to sit with that. So if you're uncomfortable with your partner being angry, not at you, but just being angry, that's your comfort zone. Well, when you're in discomfort, you've got to sit with it, and it grows your comfort zone. And then next time you have discomfort, sit with it and you grow your comfort zone. And we all have to learn to look at who we bring to our relationships. And if we have work relationships that are very functional, what are we using there that we need to start looking at? And that's normally what happens. Everybody's really good at work and can hold boundaries and speak their mind. In that romantic or home relationship, the familial, there's a sense that we can't. And from what I can gather after 15 years, it's about rejection. If I say no, then how's that going to relate to my comfort in the relationship?
So let's say we've got a couple who come in and we discover, just like you've just done a really nice big summary about the external, blaming, it's you, it's pointing the finger, and you know, all of that, that obviously creates the world of problems for one person's model of the world. They both come in because they're in conflict, and it's usually because of you and a you and you and you. So we say to them, well, what do you bring to your relationship? Because it's
Yeah.
always he didn't bring, she didn't bring, but hold on a second, what's your investment and what are you willing to make change to? What are you self-aware of? So how is it that we, because that's our job is not to agree and say, yeah, your partner. Our job is to say, okay, we're here for you. Even if they're both sitting together, we're going to be responsible for our own actions, our own reactions, our own responses, and our own interpretations. What we find is people are in conflict because you said that and I saw you act like that and then you looked at me like that. That's all a matter of interpretation. We can all watch the same movie and come out with a different interpretation and remember different parts of the movie. And so once we ground ourselves, collect ourselves and our thoughts and become responsible for what we do to contribute to the conflict, then we make a plan and help our clients make a plan. What will you do in future so that you don't create this conflict that you're contributing to? So what is it that you're going to bring to this relationship? And that's what therapy is all about. What changes are you going to make for yourself? Don't worry about what your partner's going to do. What are you going to do?
And they've got to be little and often changes. They can't be big grand gestures of, oh, we're going to go away every month for a weekend in the city. They've got to be things like if there's disconnection in the relationship because of children, and it's traditionally it's the overworkedness of the family unit with children, where you know one parent, not traditionally the woman, not always, however, one parent is at home doing stuff, the other parent comes into bedlam. They need a little bit of time to adjust, but the person that's been with the children needs to go half-time, change sides, and you know, get some space. So there's all this dysfunction where, again, the expectations, voicing them, saying, well, when I get home, I just need 10 minutes. My commitment is I'm going to come in, I'm going to source you out, I'm going to give you a hug or a kiss or whatever the other person agrees to. Then I'm going to go and have a shower, debrief, get rid of, you know, my day, come down, and I'm going to be the co-parent and the partner, instead of coming in all frazzled. Also,
I like what you said there, Tony. You said it really nicely. Go out for a shower, debrief, wash the day away.
Yep.
That's a really nice turning point for you to say, right, I've finished work, now I'm at home.
Yeah, and that's what I do myself. So this is my home office, and I've got my clinical office, you know, in Gaimea. So, and this is just like a sealed unit in our house. So when I finish here this afternoon, what I do is I go, okay, I look at my diary and go, okay, I've done all my invoices, I've sent out all my notes for tomorrow. Is there anything else? And I think, and I just sit here and I think, and then I go, okay, I take my glasses off, take my face off, I take all my makeup off, take my jewelry off, change my clothes, turn the computer off, turn the light off, close the door, and don't come back in here. And also my phone doesn't get answered after 7 p.m. or before 9 a.m. And it's about having that boundary of, if I walk out of this room and leave the door open, then it can sort of metastasize out. There needs to be a clear boundary between home and work. And there needs to be, you know, a reconnect. It's almost, think of it as like what are they called? Those electric cars where you plug them in when you get home. Well, you've got to plug yourself back into the family. You're not a satellite out there. You've got to plug back in and be part of that unit, that relationship, that third entity. So it's really important. If you look at your family of origin, I call it food, family of origin, how a relationship, an adult romantic relationship looks to us is given to us by our parents, or the relationship we saw grow up. That's why, and if you think about some of those obscure cases around the world where people have they've been reared by chimpanzees or like foxes or wolves or whatever, and they learn the social dynamic. And even one step back, and it'd be interesting for you in childcare, Amanda, if you've got little ones like non-verbal kids, like the under 1 year old, if they've got a cat in the family, as soon as they look at you, they'll go, because they're cats say hello by going, or wink. And I've seen it with people, they're like babies that wink at you or they see you and they close their eyes. Or if my niece and nephews, whenever I'd see them, I'd go, you know, all excited. And from then on, whenever they saw me, they go, so it's the way we react. I'd rather respond. I don't like react, because when you react, you redo. I like to be proactive and respond. There's some choice in that. A reaction comes from the flight, fight, freeze, the crocodile brain. Where you respond is from front brain, logical thinking. So the way a relationship looks like is role model to us.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. So if you have a healthy relationship now, then you're not normally in counselling, and you've had a very healthy, non-enmeshed family of origin.
Okay. So what happens when relationships are doing just fine? They start off, they don't trigger each other or annoy each other. And then in time, all of a sudden, it's so easy to become annoyed, angry, disappointed, and triggered by their partner, because you don't do what you used to do, and you don't help me, and you don't do this, and you. It's that you.
And I suppose if you replace that you with expectation. So if you actually think about it, when you say you don't do this anymore, I have an expectation. You used to do this for me. Why aren't you doing it now? Instead of saying, sitting down in a quiet place, like in a quiet emotional place, it's like emotional sobriety. You don't have a conversation when they're absolutely mutiny turtled, so drunk wise. So why try and have a conversation with someone that's emotionally drunk? So it's about, if your partner for the first 5 years of your relationship did this, and this, and then for the last 5 years they haven't, I'd be going, why have you waited 5 years? Why didn't you call them on the, so there's a lot of, women have a tendency of, like, if I bat my eyelids, they'll get what I mean. And men look, even you could be standing there in lingerie and they go, oh, does this mean I'm going to get lucky? Or, so, it's really interesting that those expectations, as I said, if your partner has been doing something, like I've got clients that come in and go, why can't he be ... And I'll say, has he ever done that? No, but. And it's like, no. And then we go back to that belief of, and this is something that I Tonyized it. And it's like, I really wanted a dog, but I bought a cat and I'm going to teach it to be dog-like, which is in my book. So it's expectations. This is what I want. I'm sure I can make this person who I want them to be. Whereas men are very, this is who's in front of me. They've got their faults. However, I love them who they are. Women aren't like that. We fall in love with the potential of them. And there again is your expectations. I expect them to change because they love me.
Another important point that I noticed is that some clients who I send away to create their own values, their shared values and their shared principles that they're going to live by just to get through their crisis. Everything is subject to change.
If they didn't have to start with them, why are they together?
Say it again.
After 12 months, if you're in a relationship with someone that doesn't have shared morals, values, ethics, and outlook, and shared future, then the first year, the hormones block access to the front brain. So even though we get things going, our brain stops us thinking that, oh, run away, those bonding hormones. But after a year, if you're still in a relationship and you start going, oh, her morals are there, mine are there, values, then why are you in the relationship? And we go back to codependency. And you said before that external reference that I need that, otherwise I don't fit into the social norm.
And I guess sometimes, let's call it evolution, let's call it external environment, triggers, just life changes who we are. Because let's face it, the person I was at 20 and 25 and now I'm only 26.
Yes. Well, I'm 28, yes.
Okay. So the person my point is we're changing, we evolve. This is one thing I say to clients, not just relationship situation, but individuals as well. But so that's why they may lose each other, lose themselves. Life changes everybody because they get new jobs, they have kids or illness, disabilities, anything. But let's say they come to that point where they say, okay, we need to recollect ourselves. Let's get our values and our personal philosophies together. What else is really important? I noticed when clients come in and say, okay, we've agreed on these 5 points, trust, respect, and they give such great 5 values. They're such global terms. When I ask sometimes, okay, what does trust mean for you and what does trust mean for you? One person might say, trust means you can't go with a third party. And the other
and then there's the money trust and the secret trust.
But the other person might say, oh no, trust is you can go with a third party, but you've got to be honest about it. Yeah. Okay, well, hold on a second. You both have 2 different definitions. Yeah. So we write down values, but all our definitions differ.
And a good example of that is, when someone says, I just want to be loved or I want support, it's like saying, I want a car. It's like, okay, what do you want the car for? I don't care. I just want a car. So do you want an off-road, a big thing, or do you want a little one? Like, and if they cannot tell you what they want and not use those global words like support, I just want them to support me. I just want them to understand me. That's one of the big ones. I just want him or her to understand how I feel. That's never going to happen. It's never, ever, even though you and I are very similar, we'll never understand what it's truly like to be the other person.
But we have to ask them, what does that look like for you? If you want him to understand how you feel, what does he have to do to show you that he understands or that she understands?
Yeah, and it's also, they don't have to actually believe, they don't have to internalize that what the other person is feeling is now their perspective. It's about, I use the analogy, have you ever been in a same-sex relationship? And if you say no, it's like, okay, does it bother you that you don't know what it's like to be with a woman? And they go, no, not really. I said, well, I'll say, do you have problems with LGBTQI+? No, not at all. Okay, hold that context. Now, we're talking about your partner and, and I put that on them. You can conceptualize this group of people that you'll never understand what it's like, yet you can't hold that respect, one of the important words, that your partner may feel differently to you. And then we go back to why are you trying to convert them into your way of thinking? So if you think about it, everything we've spoken about in the last 3 sessions all link in. You can't have one without the other. And if you think of communication, you need to know whether you're dealing with a wounded, like an adult that has internal core beliefs that were stunted when they were a child because there was abandonment or abuse or all those complex trauma issues, which are all about childhood or past, or they were bullied at school, or some people they saw their dog get run over and it traumatized them, and no one ever allowed them to acceptably emotionally deal with it. I'm going, oh, don't worry about it. That can then change all those core beliefs and those narratives, those things we feel about ourselves. That's when people will start externally referencing. People that worry me are ones that are always 100% perfectly made up, and you never see them. Absolutely not perfect. I hate perfect. It's a really toxic word. Yeah. That's telling me, what's inside? And there may be a core belief that it's all about external. I have to look, I have to have the house, the car, the husband, the kids, the wife, whatever it is, and then I'll feel better about myself, which we know never works. So happiness comes from inside out. Self-worth is inside out. Self-values inside out.
And values are, even religion, that's your values that you bring into your relationship. Your communication is what you bring into your relationship. Lifestyle, you bring that into your relationship as well. So it's really important. What do you bring into your relationship? Because the truth is, it's not just you and your smiley face. You bring in self-discipline.
It's like, okay, we've got a pulse, there's a past. And, you know, we talk about baggage. Sorry, the cat's just come in and he's yelling at me. Sorry.
No, that's fine.
The office manager. It's really important that if you're worried about, you know, that, you know, oh, are they going to like me? Is this going to work? Then it's all about that external stuff. If you let go, if you stop white knuckling with your relationship, that, you know, the old Pepe Le Pew hanging on, you know, like mon chéri, and the cat's going, no. That's when, and it's called distancer and pursuer. That's where a lot of dysfunction comes from. That expectation, I must have a partner, otherwise I'm not going to fit in, I'm not complete. I'm an entire unit whether I have a partner or not. And until people start recognizing that.
Yeah, I think I must add at this point, in my experience, the most important ingredient that someone can bring into a relationship is self-love.
Yes.
Half the reason why there's relationship breakdown is because people have lost their self-love, or they don't have self-love. So they need the primary work that you need to do with yourself always first is self-love. I find that extremely important, as well as the trust and openness.
What do they say to you when you're on a plane, when they're doing the safety thing? If a mask falls out of the ceiling, put it on yourself first. Again, we're back to that last time when I was talking about the Visa debit card. I can't help any of my clients or my partner or the office manager unless I've got emotional currency inside it, unless I've been doing self-care. Otherwise, I get angry and I burn out, and then I'm useful to no one, including myself. So if you've got people that are, you know, well, if she didn't do this, then I wouldn't do that. That's not taking responsibility. It's, you know, I'd be happy if they would do ... And I guarantee you, if you have anyone that says, if you didn't do this, everything would be right. Because as soon as you stop doing whatever it is, they're going to move the goalposts and find something else, because that's putting the blame and onus on you instead of themselves. So there's lots of words that as therapists we hear. You always do this. When someone says that, they're not in the logical now. Flight, fight, freeze. They're running rerun of Gilligan's Island.
You know, I had another interview recently with another expert such as yourself, Kerry Bailey, and we were talking about the drama cycle, and the drama cycle within oneself or within relationships or within families or within work absolutely can exist anywhere. And it's when you're stuck in the victim mode.
Yes.
You're stuck in the persecutor, or you're stuck in the rescuer, and that becomes
codependent.
Yes. Now, the healthiest thing to do there is remove yourself and become the observer. Because, and it's not just the observer of your partner or your family, but most importantly, become the observer of yourself. Then you can really evaluate what you bring into the relationship.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. You know, and
sometimes,
go on.
No, you go.
That's right.
Well, I was going to say sometimes, and this is a really important message for all our listeners out there. If you are struggling, and if you just need to get unstuck, because it's very easy to get stuck in a relationship where your expectations are no longer realistic, or you are not yourself anymore, or you just need movement. What you need is the observer, which happens to be the external therapist, who is not the victim or the persecutor or the rescuer. If you need an external force to get you on track, to help you see clearly, to make your own self-discoveries, then it's really important, the faster the better, that couples, any relationships, go to a therapist, get themselves in control of themselves again, whether they need to do some tasking, some negotiating, some contracting, get it done, and then get on your merry way again, get on track.
Yeah.
So
there's something I'd like to bring up, and I think we might save it for another time. And I'd really like to talk about the loss of identity. And it's a very big thing for when children come into the house.
That's a really good topic. We'll do that next time if you like.
About how a woman's identity starts to sort of fade.
Change.
I think about, you can see me, and then sort of all the filters go on. So it's like once someone falls pregnant and you become, you tell people stop talking here and talk to your belly. Strangers will come up and touch your belly. So I think it's important that we discuss that, and also how marginalized men feel in the whole process.
Yeah, I could talk a lot on that.
With Robbie Williams last week, and it was quite interesting. He said, I was there for the birth of our first child with his wife, and he said, when the baby crowned, he said, all I could think of was my favorite pubs burnt down. And he struggled seeing his wife the way she was pre-giving birth. So there's a lot of grief that happens and that's where a lot of this stuckness happens in couples relationships when children come in. And it's not just heterosexual couples. I've worked with gay couples that have had children come into the household, like had surrogate children, and they're from their own sperm. And you still get that male-female role, and the husband that's taking over the female role again loses his identity. Oh, you're Fred and George's dad. It's not Fred anymore. You become, and it's really hard, and it's a big struggle. New parents. Yeah. It doesn't matter who they are.
I'm in the early childhood industry as well, and I've seen it for years and years, and so it's taught me so much. So yes, let's save that for our next discussion. And I'd like to thank you, Tony Langford. Thank you so much for all of your input today. It's always great speaking with you, and thank you to our listeners as well.